usually see is that folks in addiction come from a behavior set of not taking responsibility for certain parts of their life, and so we could call that victimhood. So staying as a victim means I'm just kind of being influenced by outside external circumstances or relationships or even traumas. So part of the addiction recovery process is reversing from victimhood to, let's just call it, ownership. So ownership, the way I see it, would be ownership of three basic things. Ownership of my past, ownership of my present, ownership of my future. So let's talk about ownership of my past. Part of recovery is recognizing and acknowledging what happened in my past. That seems to be somewhat of a challenge, because now you're going to be tapping into feelings. And those are feelings that we usually self-medicate not to feel. So part of the process is opening up those boxes of pain. And that's a problem that we experience, like in therapy, for instance, is clients will say, why do I need to go back there? It was hurtful the first time, why do I need to bring it back up? Well, but this time we need to actually own what happened in terms of not just acknowledging what happened, but acknowledging how I have responded to that and how I continue to respond to that. That's pushing me backwards and not forwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. One question that pops up is, if something's painful in the past and I don't want to own it, what kind of psychological shift do I have to make in order to own it?
Okay, yeah, perfect. So here's the deal, is that if I were to just have to take a trip back into my past, I wouldn't want to do it. I would fight tooth and nail. But what is different now is you are now in a different situation and scenario than you were when it first happened. When it first happened, you were probably dealing with that trauma alone and powerless. Today, you're no longer alone. Of course, that's by your choice. Today we have therapists, today we have friends, we have peers, we have sponsors, we have staff, all kinds of people that now in treatment can surround us and now help us go to that place, open up the door, experience the feeling, but now you've got support. You can actually cry and be heard and supported and cared for, as opposed to being heard and no one, or sharing and no one hears, no one cares, and no one has the capability to surround you and support you.
So it's fascinating because our best thinking in the past becomes our baggage in the present. And unless we're willing to actually start to go through and to continue to grow using this current thought process that we're changing, we're nurturing, we're growing in order to revisit those painful things in the past, that's how we're able to start to eliminate or at least mitigate some of that baggage, maybe downsize to smaller packages.
Right, exactly. So, and that ties into the next portion or milestone, which is owning my present. So let's step back again to the past. So what happened with that trauma is I made certain choices in my life and I made some promises to myself. That will never happen again. I will never be hurt again. I will never be vulnerable again. And so all of a sudden what I did is I made certain choices in my past that shut down my ability to feel, to trust, and to be vulnerable. That's a problem, because now as I move into my present, which I need to own that life is not about me, but actually has a lot of other people involved that are available for me. But the problem is, if I'm still holding on to my lack of trust, to my hatred, to my resentments, I will not explore or enjoy my present, and I won't be able to let go of my drug use. And so part of owning my present is being able to now begin to reach out and learn how to trust, learn how to love, learn how to grieve, and reconnect with my higher power. And those four concepts right there, we could be spending many sessions on each one of those in particular. But that's the bottom line, is I need to start owning that. I need to start moving from my past into my present, which means I need to start actually open up my life and connect with others and begin to grow.
So once I start recognizing my past and basically owning, okay, I recognize I've been conditioned not to trust from what's happened in the past. How do I start to make that shift in the present to be open to the trust, the love, the grief, and the higher power?
Right. Well, part of it is surrounding yourself with different kinds of people. Part of it is no longer surrounding yourself with people that are invested in shutting all of that down. So you're now going to be connecting with people that are now sober, that are now wanting to grow, that are wanting to have a fuller life. Bottom line. So we have clients here that come very, very shut down, very depressed, very detached and isolated. And in that place, it's not a happy life. And then they use. And so the whole idea is connecting with other people that are wanting to have life, that are wanting to grow. And then getting along with someone that can help you open those boxes of pain and start processing that.
So I'm hearing you say environment is absolutely key. If I'm in an environment that actually is suffocating and choking off the growth, I need to get out of that environment, get into an environment that actually allows the light and the fertilization, if you will, and whatnot.
Right, exactly. And by the way, addiction, one major negative part of addiction is that it distorts your ability to love. Well, that's kind of interesting because we actually live to love. We're created to love. And if we don't allow that channel of giving and receiving, we start shutting down. And so this is really, really super key, learning how to retrust. But this time, we are going to start trusting with boundaries. We're not just going to open the doors wide and say, hey, come on in, I'm going to let you into all my secrets and then experience you abandoning or criticizing. No, we're now going to test out trusting along with boundaries that say, wait a minute, if you're not respecting and responding or hearing me, then I need to slow this down or maybe go somewhere else to have my needs met.
Sounds good. So we looked at the past, revisiting the past with this new growth mindset in order to work through what's going on. Then we're in the present, really focusing on, you said, love, trust, grieving, and higher power. Once I start aligning that, you mentioned the future. Where do we go from there?
Right. Okay. I'm glad you asked that question. So part of what we're moving towards is basically we're moving from being not present, which is kind of our past. In our past, we were shut down, traumatized, abandoned in many cases. So we're moving from being not present to being present, right, in the present. And now we're going to move to the future, which is going to be to become significant. And so in the present, I'm learning how to build all my basic skills back up. I'm learning how to be productive in life. Be productive is I'm now owning myself, I'm owning my situation, I'm owning my needs. I need to actually be a part of society and be an adding part of society, which means getting a job, being of help to other people. And so I'm becoming productive. When I begin to own my future, I begin to become significant. And how do I become significant? Now we're talking about my ability to influence. And so my ability to influence is all based on my ability to care. That's why step 2 of being present is key, learning how to love again. Because I'm now going to use that as I reach out and have a vision for my relationships with my parents, with my peers, with my community. And I'm now going to be looking at life from their perspective and adding to someone else's life and not just my own. Because nobody really cares how much you know, but what matters is how much you care. And that's the process of being significant.
So I've got a little picture in my mind. It's like the pyramid. So down here is you have to deal with the past and go through the past in order to build that foundation. Then you're able to bring to the present with what you learn from that aspect. Only then can you go to the future, as opposed to what we tend to do is when we flip it upside down and it's barely teeter-tottered on the point because we're projecting the future without having done this work, that's when things fall out of place. Would that be accurate?
Exactly, okay. Exactly. Absolutely right.
Fantastic.
Absolutely right. So, part of the process is when I go to the past, I see the walls that I built up. My process is now, how do I tear down those walls? And now, how do I find out who I really am? And now apply who I really am into relationships with other people. And then my life begins to open up and grow.
So I guess the takeaways from this would be, as I understand where I'm in the present, focusing on those core four, we'll call love, trust, grieving, and higher power, I take that into the past. And as I go in the past with the love, with the grieving, with the trust and higher power, I'm able to work through some of those aspects to bring back to the present, and then I can move into the future with this new healthy mindset. Is that kind of a accurate sum up?
That's pretty good. I'll add one more part to that. In the past, because of what you've gone through, more likely than not, you had needs that you probably weren't even aware of, and you probably had to tell yourself you didn't have any needs because no one was there to hear them. And so now in the present, you're now going to be recognizing, wait a minute, I actually did have a need to be loved, to be heard, to be understood, but that got lost. And so I need to do my grieving, but now recover that. So you know what, I actually do still have those needs. And so now in my present, I'm going to be finding people that are available to meet my needs as I express them. And then I'm building now for the future where I can meet the needs of other people.
So that's the tie, bringing it all together is I have needs that I wasn't aware of, that there's healthy ways to meet it, therefore I turn to using. And now that I'm aware, these are some needs, there's healthy ways to meet that, we're able to pull out the using, put in the new healthy ways of meeting those needs, and then we're able to move forward.